Okay, so welcome to Sandler Foundations. The title of today's event is Why Salespeople Fail. Right? And then why also it is important to have a system, a plan, a methodology in place, something that you do every single day the same way every time, because you believe so fervently in that it's going to lead to the desired results that you want and that you need. And we have a good combination of folks on the call. Some of you have been selling for many years. Some of you are brand new to selling, and maybe some of you have only been selling for a few years. The great part about today is every single one of you is going to leave with some great information and some new things to really start trying and implementing into your daily selling life that are going to make things a heck of a lot easier for you and a heck of a lot more predictable for you too when it comes to getting results. And one thing to think about though, some of the things you might hear about today are going to make you a little bit uncomfortable. It's going to pull you out of your comfort zone. And if that's the case, then that's really, really good. Because if you're 100% comfortable in everything you do, you might just be mediocre. And we all know that true growth comes when we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, trying new things, doing different things, and developing the habits and the behaviors around that to start getting more and more comfortable with that. So definitely, I expect to see some grimaces and some cringes and some head shaking throughout the course of what we're going to do today. And some of you that have been around a while, I might throw up a couple of slides here and there that might look familiar to you, and that's okay as well. So here's the first slide. Take a look at this. Put in chat, what do you see? Now, some of you may have seen this before, so if you know the answer, don't necessarily shout it out too quickly, but put in chat what you see here in this picture. And I will start taking a look at what you're putting. A boat, a lot of boats, waves ahead, picture of a sailboat, a boat in choppy water, sailboat in the ocean, absolutely, right? A lot of good stuff there. And for those of you, here we are, smack dab in the middle of summer, the last day of July. And if you haven't had your summer vacation yet, if you see a boat, that's a sign that you really need to go on your vacation and to book it. You're working too hard. All right. If it's not a boat, what do you think it could be?
Shark.
Say that again?
Just joking. Could be a shark.
Shark. Right.
Seems to be in the news these days. All I hear about is sharks.
Yeah. What this is actually a picture of, and this is going to blow some of your minds. This is a rip on a leather couch. That's what this picture is, a rip in a leather couch. And I share this with you because I think it's a great way to kind of talk about perspective. We all have different perspectives. And when we put our seller's hat on, we have a specific perspective that we're trying to accomplish. And when we think about that perspective, what is it that we as salespeople are trying to accomplish? At the end of the day, what's our goal?
Productivity, sales, new clients.
New clients, productivity, sales, to try and sell something. Absolutely.
Self-worth, respect.
All part of it, all things that we're going to actually talk about today, for sure. But here's something to keep in mind. Our job as salespeople, yes, it's to sell. And those of you that have been around Sandler for a while, we've said the number one purpose of a salesperson is to go to the bank. Ideally, right? That's our goal, is to be able to cash checks and make commissions and bonus. But ultimately, with our buyers, this is a number one responsibility of a salesperson, to help someone make a great decision. And in order to do that, in order to help somebody make a great decision, what do we need to do?
Believe in what we sell.
Believe in what we sell, big part of it.
Educate them.
Educate them is a part of it for sure. Absolutely.
Ask questions
Ask questions. Why, Roberta?
so you can understand their perspective,
Bingo.
what they need.
Bingo.
And then underscores their decision.
Yep. Absolutely. And that when I showed you that picture of the rip and the leather couch, all about perspective, is typically the perspective of a lot of salespeople is I have my product, I have my service, I need to get in front of the right people, I need to pitch it, I need to sell it, and I need to have success with it. And it works when you do it that way. It absolutely works, but you're working too hard. And it doesn't work all the time. And we might find even some of you have been around long enough where you say, you know what, it used to work that way, but boy, it's just not working that way anymore. Not as effective as it used to be. Right? So what can we do differently? And this is where the change comes in. How do I do things differently? Not only to differentiate myself from other salespeople, specifically my competitors, right? But how do I develop that aura of trust and credibility with my prospects and my clients that don't know me very well? And I'm gonna share one other thing with you, and then we're gonna do a quick breakout. I went into, everybody's hearing all about AI and chat GPT and all that stuff. So I kind of stole this definition of selling out of chat GPT, right? Mike Sobeski, can you read that? And by the way, if you can't see it, pin the speaker view on your screen if you can't see it.
Yeah, I got you. A salesperson's job is to sell products or services by building relationships with customers, understanding their needs, presenting solutions, negotiating deals, and providing ongoing support. They generate leads, demonstrate product knowledge, and track sales activities.
Yep. All that right out of chat GPT, right? Putting in the little prompts there of what is sales, right? And here's another interesting fact for you. Someone have a question? Nearly 13% of all the jobs in the US are full-time sales positions. This one blew my mind. I never even thought about that from that perspective. This one really blew my mind. So here's what I'd like to do. I want to go into a 5-minute breakout. All right, I'm going to create the rooms, and here's what I'd like you to do in this breakout. What are some of your most common frustrations and challenges today dealing with your sales job? And answer the question this way. I'm really good at what I do, but boy, if I really wish I could get better at ... And this is where it's going to take a little bit of self-analysis, right? But where are the areas that you want to improve, that you can control, right? Things that you can control, but also things that we can help you with. Here are some of the things we can't help you with. I can't help you with, I wish my company had a better CRM. I wish my marketing gave us more leads, right? I wish my boss would let me give things away and be the cheapest product on the market. Right? Those types of things can't necessarily help you with. But if you take a really good, honest look into yourself and look in the mirror and have really good, strong self-awareness, be vulnerable and say, boy, I would really love to get better at ... Right? Everybody cool with that? So I'm going to put you in some rooms with some others. I'm going to pause and record. So I realized I forgot to do one thing, guys, and I only do these training sessions several times a week. What's the thing I forgot to do?
Have a spokesman.
Have a scribe. Have a scribe. So my apologies. I did not say the person with the brightest color shirt on, be the scribe for your group, or the one with the most letters in your last name, be the scribe. So I apologize for that. So we're going to wing it a
We
little
in
bit.
group one made it the a combination of the oldest person and the best looking one.
Well, there. I'm not going to touch that.
Which was really tough because the truth is it was a good looking room.
Got it. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to each group. I'm going to ask for a couple. If there's not a specific person that took some notes, we'll wing it and we'll go for it. But group one, Alexis, Kevin, Rachel, SPS. I don't know what your first name is.
That's Maria's SPS.
Maria is
Um,
SPS.
Yeah, I don't know why
So-
that's popping up like that. Sorry, guys.
So sales cycle came up in a number of different ways. First person I've ever heard of said their sales cycle was too short. Another sales cycle was too long. And the problem with that was getting people's attention and getting their time. Because people are very busy in that industry. And the third one was consistency, meaning time management. Blocking time and time blocking to make sure that the behaviors get done.
Okay, so you said time management.
Yep.
Blocking time. Give me the other ones.
Sales cycle, too long and too short. By the way, your handwriting is way better.
Oh yeah, this one I'm typing. You'll see. Well, we'll reserve that later. All right. All right. Time management, blocking time, sales cycle, too long or too short. Maria, I hope I spelled your name right, but you like how I changed your Zoom name? Pretty cool,
Oh,
right?
thank you. Yes,
Right.
that looks perfect.
Pretty dangerous though, because I could like change any of your names and put stuff that like, but why is somebody calling me Big Joe or whatever? So, right, little sales trainer trick. We have some laughs doing that. Room two, Bob Fields, Dylan, Leah, Michael. Give me a couple of things that you guys talked about. I'm really good at this, but boy, if I can get better at ... What comes to mind?
Identifying pain using the FUD Walker, and pushing people through the process to completion.
Pushing people, okay, through the process. Got it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Room three, Andrew, Eric, Nathan.
So I went with the fact that I'm really trying to get ahead of problems that come up later on in the sales cycle by streamlining processes and just becoming more aware of, hangups and snags that come from legal, finance, and often out of left field.
So more aware of predicting stalls and objections. I like the left field, right? Here's the interesting part with that, right? You kind of look at it and has anybody been in a situation where they get a typical stall or objection, something that kind of stops the forward momentum of the opportunity per se? Has anything happened recently that has really surprised you that you'd never heard before? Probably not. I mean, there might be once in a while, right? But bottom line, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit, but it's not our job to overcome stalls or objections or handle stalls or objections. The best salespeople are the ones that can prevent them from occurring, which means you already have talk tracks established to deal with those and further investigate those. And a lot of people might already have their talk tracks up here, but guess what? They wimp out. They wimp out in using them. And there's a number of reasons why. The biggest reason why, what do you think is the biggest reason why a lot of times salespeople wimp out when trying to prevent stalls and objections, or any part of the sales process for that matter? Any guesses?
Fear of rejection.
Fear of
Confidence.
rejection.
They accept the excuse.
They accept the excuse, or the fear, or the biggest one, they're just uncomfortable. They're just uncomfortable when having to kind of do something different, or they feel like they're becoming too aggressive. So we're going to show you ways to deal with that head trash and why it's exactly that, head trash. Right.
Hey, Scott, we had a couple more in group two that I think are important.
Can we let the other groups go first, and then we'll circle
Yeah.
back on anything that's
Well, yeah,
missing?
because I didn't get a chance to finish my scribing there, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's okay. No, good stuff. I want to hear them for sure,
You're
Bob.
taking them all, Bob.
All right, room 4, we had Chrissy, Doug, Julia, and Susan. What were some of the big things you talked about? I'm really good at what I do, but boy, I'd love to get better at ...
I will defer to any of the ladies who might want to volunteer. If not, I will be happy to.
I can chat, Doug. Thank you. Managing my time was a new one that we talked about, especially like starting in a new role, figuring out how to manage time and most effective ways to do so.
Got it. Awesome. Anything else from room 4?
Prospecting and
Good.
understanding how to share value.
Share value. Love that one. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Room 5, we had Bob and Mason, Michael, Sobeski, and Sam.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Time management was one. We've hit on that. Mass communication, basically use of tools, LinkedIn or emails to just establish a touch point. And then the other one was visibility over a deal funnel, just really pipeline management, not losing sight of important tasks there.
Got it. Awesome. Cool. Good stuff. Thank you. Room 6, we had Jeff, Jill, Lisa, Ruben.
We said taking proper notes. That's something that I've been trying to get really better at. Like sometimes prospects don't necessarily want to close or book a meeting now because someone died, someone's graduation, but follow up in 3 weeks or a month. I feel like I just need to get better at that. And
Okay.
then we also said identifying pain, but I think someone already said that.
Mhm.
I don't know if someone else has something to add.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I had mentioned, and I think it might have been addressed in the above, but essentially, what I sell is tied to the market, so it fluctuates with interest rates on a daily basis. So, and the process can take years, up to 10 years. And it's, getting quotes out to the clients and then getting them, okay, so no, we're not going to do anything today. Interest rates are too low, whatever the case may be. Well, putting them in the sales cycle and finding effective ways to, when you reapproach them, when they come up on your tickler or whatever for a few months, like in driving it home, I'm just not real strong with that. And I've seen other people that are, so I don't know if it's my personality or just being more aggressive about it or what, but
Got it.
yeah.
Oh, good stuff. I put in there predicting a clear future.
Okay.
Setting expectations, right? Clear future, expectation management. Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Room 7, Colin, Jerry, Mark, anything to add that's not on the list?
I would add just overcoming just overall resistance. Happens a lot with marketing folks, but they're just unwillingness to like jump on a call to discuss something just becomes very transactional. And I try to not come off like they think that I'm going to twist their arm or something, but just overall, people are scared to get on a phone call because they think that salespeople are just going to persuade them over guiding a thoughtful decision-making process.
Yeah, boy, if we were only that talented to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are things to do to offset it, but there's the general resistance is still there.
Because there's a bias there. There's an actual bias there. And unfortunately, salespeople within our field that sell different types of products and services have given salespeople a bad name. So we're going to talk about that. right? We're gonna talk about how to overcome that as well, right? For sure.
One of the things I try to do is when I talk to a client, and the first thing they ask is how much I'm going to spend for this. And the first thing I always tell them is that if you look at this as you're spending money is when you buy dinner or buy drinks or buy a car, nothing, it brings nothing back to you. But I always tell them that it's not what you're spending, is what you're investing, because
Bingo.
if you're going to do this, it doesn't say much for us if we can't help you make money from that. We do websites and social media and a lot of video for construction companies. And the thing is, when they go out there, they don't, well, they do realize that when we create a video for them, 2,000 people have seen it. They found new clients from it. They don't particularly think that's the reason. Okay, I got to spend the money to do this. No, you don't have to spend it. You have to invest it. The other thing,
Oh, that's what it is. You're all here today because either you personally or your boss has made an investment in your professional development. If they look at it as a cost, right, you're right. It's, wow, this is costing me how much?
The other thing that,
Right?
I'm
But
sorry,
it's an investment. Right.
and the other thing I try to figure out is how much they want to invest in this. For example, the worst thing about trying to go through all the efforts of setting up things and qualifying clients and getting them, only to find out they only want to spend this much at the end of the day and expect like a, to drive a Ferrari on a beer budget.
Yeah.
So it's kind of at the beginning a little of a struggle when because the first thing you want to see is how much money do you want to spend or invest, and it's kind of a tough thing, but you want to be sure that they're in for the long run and they have enough to invest and enough of your services to make a reaction for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to talk about that too, budget, for sure. Harry, Roberta, Terrence, anything not on the list that you guys talked about?
We talked about a couple of things. Part of it was, you said, I see pipeline management there. It's just getting things in the top of the funnel, finding new business. And let's see here. Also, the discipline to stay with your system. And I said that's something I personally, and my cadence, like I have it down, but maybe it's just where I am in my career. I was like, there's times like I just don't want to, and I just have to like, okay, bite the bullet, knock it out, type of thing.
You'll see why. You'll see why a lot of times we abandon our process, right? As we go forth, you'll see why that happens. Bob, I know you wanted to add something. I don't know if any of the other groups touched upon it.
No, there's three things. There's one, being more of a consultant instead of being their friend. Right. Two, handling ghosting and the frustration associated with that. And then finally, process supports from management. One example is taking them through the process, but then needing help getting proposals done.
Got it. Okay. So I got a ghosting riddle for you, Bob. What did the prospect say to the sales rep?
Call me later.
No, nothing. You were ghosted. Right? Kind of like this. I made this little thing, right? That happens to us all the time. We get ghosted in sales quite a bit, and there's a number of reasons why. And by the time you leave here today, at the end, you'll see why that happens to you more often than it should. Right? More often than it should. So there's something called the buyer-seller dance that I want to share with you. And the buyer-seller dance is something that happens when you have a salesperson doing things their way and then a buyer doing things their way. And it's kind of like a clash of two different systems. So I think it's important that we talk about the salesperson system, talk about the prospects system, and then why they clash. And then typically there's a control, a fight for power, right? So, and we'll talk about who usually wins that, right? Who usually wins that and why, right? So we'll have a little bit of clarity there. And with this list, this Excel list that we put together here of all the pains that we want to fix, all the problems that we want to solve, I want you to think about this, not answer this now, but I want you to start thinking about, boy, if I could fix these issues, either if I can fix them for myself personally, or if I can fix them for my team, right? How much additional money can we be bringing in? How much additional money can we be bringing in? For you salespeople that are here, if I fix these issues and get better at them, how much more can you make in commission? How much more revenue can you bring in for your organization? And then selfishly for you, how much more can you bring in commission, right? And then I want you to start thinking about on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being not so important, 3 being urgently important. How committed are you to fixing these issues? Right, because that's got to come from you internally, right? On how committed you are to fix those issues, right? So let's talk about first the traditional sales process. You're prospecting. When we're and this doesn't matter whether you're proactively prospecting or if you're reactively. So a proactive prospector is you making calls, using social media, using referrals, however it is to get in front of new people. That's what I call proactive. Reactive is when you answer the phone, when they call you. Doesn't matter. What we're about to discuss doesn't matter if you're proactive or if you're reactive. But here's the one thing to keep in mind. If all we're doing is trying to sell reactively, I think we can all admit our phones are not ringing aggressively enough, right? Which is where we have to be more proactive, right? So what's the first job of a salesperson? What's the first thing that we have to do to get in front of somebody? What do you think?
Find them.
Develop a relationship.
Build a before we can even build a relationship, what do we need to do?
Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Get their
We need
attention.
to- Yeah. Of course, you guys can't see my whiteboard now. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we have to generate a lead, right? Generate a lead. That's the first thing we have to do. So however we generate that lead, however we get in front of somebody, whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, however that might be, we make a contact. This is the generate a lead phase, right? And the next phase to that, then what happens next? After we generate a lead, and let's say we're lucky enough to get a meeting, right? We generate that lead, we get a meeting. What happens next? What usually happens in that meeting?
Educate.
Educate.
LFI.
Fact find.
Okay, all that
Listen.
great stuff. Listen, educate, fact find. Some of us also do what?
Propose a deal.
Propose a deal. Right? So we get in front of somebody, they accept our request for a meeting, so we get all excited. Right? So then typically we go down and we sit down in front of them. And what's one of the first things they might say to us?
What do you know? What's your experience?
Hey, yeah. Hey, wow, Sandler, tell me about Sandler. Right, tell me about Sandler. Oh, tell me about your company. Hey, how are you better than the company we're currently using? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? So typically when that happens, a salesperson goes in what? What are they doing there typically?
Selling themselves, selling the company.
Yeah. Yeah, or I affectionately refer to it as the show up and throw up. Right, the show up and throw up. This is where we're talking about all the features and the benefits of our company, who we are, what we do, why we're so great. We're in that kind of like proposal stage, that impression stage, that, you know, maybe we're doing a demo. Hey, here's why I'm here. I wanted to talk to you about your marketing videos. I wanted to talk to you about your website. I wanted to talk to you about your sales team and your sales training. I wanted to talk to you about your assessments, whatever it might be. We typically go right into proposal stage or demo stage, right? Talking about me. Right? Now, listen, some of you might be doing it a little bit differently. Some of you might be shaking your head at me right now and saying, no, Bliss, that's not the way I do it. I ask questions. I'm a great qualifier. I find pain. If you do that already, awesome. That's what we want for sure. Right? But for the most part, we generate interest, we go into proposal mode. Start talking about features and benefits, because that's what we're taught to do. Maybe we ask some, we try and uncover some needs for sure. We ask open-ended questions, all that great stuff. We try and create value and differentiation. Right? So after we kind of do the proposal, demo, gather a little bit of information, what do we then do after that? And by the way, this might not all happen on one call, right? But what do we typically try and do after we share with them information, after we educate them?
Listen,
Walk down next steps.
Okay, try and set next steps, which
Find
is
solutions.
define solutions, right? So typically we start working towards trying to close them, right?
Hmm.
We're trying to
what they
close
want.
them.
See what they want, see what where their needs are, see how, if they want this now or they want to wait, how long term is going to be, but just see how much dedicated they are to going through the whole motion with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we do all this. And again, it might take 1, 2, or 3 meetings. We end up asking some great questions, maybe gathering a little bit of information, but most of the time we end up sharing a bunch of information. We're sharing. What are some of the things we're sharing? Someone said earlier, we're educating them. What does it mean when we're educating them?
Value prop.
Value prop. What else?
Differentiators.
Differentiators, what, between you and a competitor or you and what they're currently doing?
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
How we can solve their pain and solve their problems.
How we can solve their problem. Absolutely.
Going
How-
over the pros and cons.
Pros and cons. Yeah,
How quickly we can deliver.
how quickly we can deliver. Yep, so it's a timeline, things like that, right? So a lot of times we share all this information and we maybe send them a proposal, we give them stuff. And then when if we don't win the deal, what typically happens to us a lot of times? Someone said it earlier. Right? So ever happened to you? You feel like you got a good one on the line, you share a lot of information, you think you ask a lot of great questions, they share information with you, a little bit back and forth, then you arrange the demo or you send them your proposal, you send them your solution, you send them pricing, and then boom, they disappear on you, right?
Disappointing.
Yeah, right. And then we find ourselves in what we call chase mode, right? Why are we chasing? Why do you think we're now chasing?
We're desperate.
Oh, thank you for
Invested so
admitting
much
that.
time. Yeah.
You're
We're
invested.
desperate, we're invested, we've
We're
wasted time,
angry.
we're mad, we're pissed.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you why that happens. Because this is a traditional selling method. When I first started in sales a long time ago, I won't share that date because I look younger than I am. Kevin can't say that. All right. Right.
Love you too, Scott.
I was taught sell. Hey, this is how you sell: features and benefits. Features tell, benefits sell. That's what you do. Tell them all about your product and service, why you're so great, why you're better than the competition. Listen, it could work. It used to work. It's just not as effective as it used to be. And when we take a look at these traditional sales model of getting in front of people, showing up and throwing up, doing a demo, giving a proposal, trying to close them, right? And now we're in chase mode. Let's now talk about the buyer or the prospect and their system. And I'll go on record as first saying that prospects have developed their system as a defense mechanism to the traditional sales model. Because people love to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. All right, let me move my big head out of the way so you can see this better.
People also like to buy on sale. That's another thing as well. They like to buy when they know they can get you at a discounted rate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, end of the month, end of the quarter. Sure, that's a negotiation tactic. We did negotiations training a few weeks ago. That's a big negotiation tactic that some buyers will use when they can sense a little bit of desperation from you. Right? They'll know you'll discount that, right? But buyers have their process. And the first step in their process is they may lie to you. It's a hard thing to swallow there. But when I say they may lie to you, what do you think I mean by that?
What they paid before.
Okay. What else?
They're not going to give you the whole scope of their problem
Hmm,
or their authority.
okay.
They'll over exaggerate their interest level.
Yep. Why? Why are they gonna over exaggerate their interest level?
To get information from you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it exactly.
Or a lot of times to get quotes to compare them against somebody else. And they make you
Yep.
do all the hard work of writing the proposal and making all the work, creating all the work, and then they just use it and find the lowest one.
Oh, doesn't that suck?
Sucks big.
And then you're kicking the tires in your car, you're like, damn it, why did I work so hard and do all that work when I knew they were gonna do this anyway? Why didn't I just ask them that up front?
And you can't go back and go lower because the first thing they say is, why didn't you do this in the first place? It's terrible. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a, listen, we were all brought up that, you know, there were 10 commandments. There were actually 11 commandments. Right? And most of you don't notice. If you're in sales, you might notice commandment. The 11th commandment states that you can lie to salespeople and still go to heaven. Right? That's the 11th commandment. And when you think about it, I'm not saying buyers and prospects are bad people. Some of you are probably like, how dare this guy? What's he doing? I'm over embellishing. I'm making a point. Right? A prospect's job is to act interested because they know when they act interested, you're going to give them whatever they want. You're going to educate them. You're going to answer all their questions. You're going to share your pricing. And I'm not saying they're not interested. They might be. But there could be a whole bunch of different factors. They're just gathering information. They want to kick the tires, see if you can offer them a better deal than what they currently have. Or maybe they're trained to go out there and get 3 quotes because their boss wants them to get 3 quotes type thing. Number of different reasons, right? So I'm not necessarily saying they're all liars, but it's a good embellishment, right? Their job is to get information from you. And they're going to keep things close to their vest. And they're not going to share everything with you. Why? Why aren't they going to share everything with you?
Leverage.
Leverage. Why else? They don't know you yet. And if they don't know you, they don't what?
Trust you.
Bingo. They don't trust you. Right? Because you're not doing anything different to differentiate yourself from your competition. You're acting just like any other good salesperson would. You're going to educate them. You're going to answer their questions. You might gather a little bit of information back from them, but you might wimp out on the really hard stuff. And then you're going to hope that they choose you. And there's nothing wrong with that strategy if it's working for you today and you're being successful at it today. Right? Because then what they do here is after they get from you what they want, they go into hide mode. AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, they didn't invent voicemail. Prospects did, as another way to avoid dealing with us salespeople. But the reason why this is called the buyer-seller dance, it's 2 systems at work here, right? We generate interest. We want to get a meeting. We want to get in front of people, right? So we get in front of them right here, right? And yet I put here lie, but you know, we know that they're not telling us the whole truth and nothing but the truth, right? So that kind of cancels each other out, right? They withhold information from us, right? Their job is to gather as much information from us as we're willing to give. That's their job. We make a proposal, we show up and throw up, we start answering all their questions, we give them the pricing, we give them everything, we don't necessarily make them earn it. Right, so that kind of cancels each other out, right? We try and close them, right? And they give us, I forgot a step here, right? Stalls and objections. Right, what are the typical stalls and objections that we get? We said this earlier, that we should have talk tracks already developed for the stalls and objections we get. Right, but what are some of the typical stalls and objections you hear?
Cost too much, maybe?
Talks too much?
Cost.
Oh, I was gonna say, a lot of people, I did get voted most talkative in high school. Right, cost too much? Okay, so price might be an objection, and if you find that out early, awesome. But I'm gonna show you ways around that. What else? What other stalls and objections might we incur?
Timing. More like
Timing,
waiting for my kid to graduate or me getting a bonus or something.
okay,
Budgeting.
budgeting,
I need to run this by my boss or supervisor.
bingo. Yep, absolutely. Right, need to talk to my wife, need to talk to my husband, need to talk to my accountant, need to talk to my father-in-law, need to talk to my boss. We need to form a committee. All these things, typical stalls and objections that we deal with. Do you guys ever hear about the seasons of prospects? The seasons of prospects kind of go like this. We're in the summer season now. So what's the big stall and objection we get now from the summer season?
Vacation.
Vacations. Call me in the fall. Then what are the typical objections and stalls we get in the fall?
Holidays.
Budgeting.
Holiday season. Call me in the beginning of the new year. It's holiday, or we don't have our budgets for blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. Call me in the beginning of the year. Right? And then so then we call them in the beginning of the year. What do we get?
Taxes.
Taxes. Hey, this is our planning season.
Spend
Call
too
me
much.
in the spring. Call me in the spring. And then
It's
we
too
call in the
late.
spring. What do we hear? Yeah. It's too late. Oh, we're too busy. We're too busy. Call me in the summer. We call this gerbil selling. Kevin, you remember gerbil selling, right? Why do we call it gerbil selling, Kev?
Get on a wheel and just keep going. Keep spinning the
Yeah.
wheel.
Got a gerbil in the habit trail where they're just on that wheel and they're just going. That's what we're doing, right? And when we kind of take a look at the prospect system versus our system, they go into hide mode because they already have all the information they need from us, and we're chasing them because we're invested in them now. We've spent time, effort, energy, and resources in the pursuit of that opportunity. And this is why we chase. And they know it. Now, when will they come back and talk to you? When do you think they'll come back and talk to you?
When they need you.
Oh, yes. When they need you for something, or, hey, Jeff, so sorry, man. I know you've been trying to get a hold of me. I've got your 6 voicemails and your 27 emails. My apologies. We've just been so busy. Hey, I need one more favor from you. Can you tell me what would that proposal look like if we dropped it from 10 people to 4 people? Can you share that with me? Yeah, sure, no problem. And you share it with them, and then you give it to them, and you're like, oh, I got one, thank God. And then they ghost you again. So they'll come back out of the woodwork.
Or when they find a competitor pricing wise, and then they ask you again if you can drop down the pricing to be competitive with that pricing that they found.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
also said something very important. You said, no problem. There's where it is the problem. And that's the problem in itself, because the more you give to them, the more you go, they start to get a sense of, here's something everybody should look at later. There's a cartoon called Chester, what's his name? Spike and Chester. It's a Disney, no, it's a Warner Brothers thing. Go watch it. It's about a small dog who is trying to appease a big boxer. And every single time he tries to do something, you watch it. And that's how we compare our company to Chester and Spike, because Chester is always getting pushed aside. And finally, he just never gets the fact that it's time to move on, because you're just not getting anywhere. And you think you need to keep chasing, you're losing money, by going after somebody who you think, there's a certain point where you say to yourself, you know what? A friend of mine once said, you need to fire your bad clients. And that's pretty much it. You can't stick with a client that's not going to make it.
Yeah, agreed. Somebody said earlier, I abandoned my process too early. Right, and for the person that said that, this might be one of the reasons why you abandoned it too early. Right? We think we have one, we think we got one. It's called happy years. Oh, they're interested, I got them. They told me they're really interested, they really want to move forward. Right, so we stop our process.
Right.
Right, or I'll share this little video with you, which kind of familiar movie for some of you. Right, you should be able to hear it, okay? The picture quality ain't that great, but you should be able to hear it.
What are the chances? Not good. Not good, like. I would say more like 1 on 1. You're telling me there's a chance.
Right, so that kind of happens a lot. We think that we got a shot. So that's why we educate, that's why we share information. We think we have a shot at it. Now in this quest for control, for power, the buyer seller dance, when you do ballroom dancing, there's one person that leads the dance. Typically that person that leads the dance, they lead the tempo, they lead the area on the floor that's covered, they lead whether they're going to dip you, flip you, lift you, whatever they're going to do. Right? And the other person kind of follows along. In this traditional model of selling versus the buyer system, more often than not, the prospect is leading the dance. The prospect is in control. So what happens when the prospect is in control? What do you think happens?
I almost feel like they could like lose respect for you in a way.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Nothing happens.
You stay on their clock.
Yeah. Yeah. The prospect's in control. That typically means we don't have a true understanding of their needs, of their pain. We haven't followed a process to really understand how to set proper expectations, how to ask difficult questions, how to gather the right information. Right? Here's a Sandler rule. It's one of my favorite Sandler rules. The true value of a salesperson. And when I say value of a salesperson, not only in the way you're perceived by the prospect, but your commissions or your bonus. The true value of a salesperson is more determined by the amount of information you are able to gather, not what you dispense, but what you gather. And when is the best time to gather information from your prospect?
Where you meet them.
When you meet them, but when else?
When their
When they're asking you
when
for
their need
information.
is great enough.
If their need is great enough.
When they're asking you for information.
Bingo. When they want something from you, they will answer your questions. So I was going to do a breakout for this, but I'm not. We're going to discuss this. Actually, you know what? Let's do a breakout. Quick one, 3 minutes. All right, let me pause the record. I'm going to resume the recording. And I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to yes.
Just an observation about what we were talking about right before the break, the breakouts.
Yeah.
You were talking about control. And I think that one problem that a lot of salespeople have, maybe even one or two in the group today, is that they believe that the prospect should be in control.
Interesting.
And if you really believe that, there's not much that's going to help.
How would you define in control? Like, I mean, I've always viewed it as it's like, you know, it's an equal, where everybody's on equal footing. their, my job is to identify the opportunity and their job is to get the best, price or best opportunity, best solution.
You're asking me?
Yeah,
I would argue that your job is to take control of the process while allowing them to think that they're in control of the process.
There you go. Bingo.
Jedi mind trick. Yeah, Jedi mind trick. And here's how that happens, by the way, Harry. Now, we're going to answer that question now, right? So when you take a look at this graphic right here, this is a graphic of the Sandler selling system, right? It's broken down into engaging, qualifying, and closing, right? And there's 7 steps within the program, but each step has mini steps within it. So when you look at communication, right, there's many things within communication that lead up to communication, many things within upfront contract, pain, investment, right? So we're going to break it down for you. And we're going to share some examples of each. But when we talk about building the relationship, right, this is where you have the opportunity to differentiate yourself from all other salespeople. Right? This is the first step in the Sandler selling system on how to build a relationship, how to take the lead, the buyer-seller dance. Now you're aware of the buyer-seller dance. You're now aware of the games that prospects play in order to get you to give them as much information as you're willing to give them for free, by the way, for free. And there's a term for that. If you're constantly educating and giving away free information, you are becoming what we call an unpaid consultant. And that's what we want to avoid, right? But communication, engaging, how to we teach things like behavioral profiling, DISC. I know Harry's a big assessment guy, right? We use DISC to teach our clients how to understand how they like to communicate, how they behave, but more importantly, we teach our people how to understand how their prospects behave, what their DISC behavioral profile is, because it's our job as salespeople to adapt to our prospects. We get paid as salespeople to adapt to our prospects. Prospects do not get paid to adapt to salespeople. Right? So when we talk about bonding and rapport, communicating with them, Kevin said understanding personal things about them, right? If you walk into somebody's office, anybody can walk into their office and see their sports memorabilia hanging on the wall. Oh, you like the Yankees? I'm a Yankee fan too. Or anybody can comment on, wow, Doug, that's a really bright room there, right? But can people really look at it from a behavioral perspective and say, gee, Harry, I got a question for you, Harry. You're an assessment guy. You look at Doug Rawadi, you see his bright yellow walls. Just by looking at that bright yellow wall, what would you say his disc style might be, Harry?
I don't see his yellow wall.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is. D or an I.
Right. Doug, is he correct?
Yep, high with a chunk of D. Yep.
Right. And just wow, bright yellow walls. Right. You can tell by the way people look, the way their hair is combed, the way they're dressed, the way their camera's situated, things in the background. If you're there virtually, if you're there in person, you can tell by the way they sit, the way they're leaning forward or leaning back, how fast they're talking, their tonality, the way they say things, right? Things like, hey, I don't have much time. Tell me why you're here. Let's get right to the point. Saying things like that. Or if they're talking about, hey, beautiful day outside. Boy, it's Monday. What'd you do this weekend? How was your weekend? What'd you do? Did you go to the beach? Right? All these things are cues and hints on how people like to be communicated with. So we have to understand that. First step is understanding how you like to be communicated with, because when you adapt to other people, it's going to pull you way out of your comfort zone. And the worst thing that you can do is try and pull somebody who's not in your profile into your profile. Because if you do that to the wrong person, you're gone. It's over. It's over before it even started.
Isn't that what they call mirroring?
Yes. Yes. You learn about matching and mirroring. Absolutely. Not mimicking. There's a difference between matching and mirroring and then mimicking.
Sure.
right? If you're sitting across from a prospect and he scratches his nose, I wouldn't advise you that you start scratching your nose, right? But you might get a couple of laughs out of it, right? But it's about matching and mirroring their behavioral styles because you're trying to make them feel comfortable with you. Why?
To gain trust.
To gain bingo, to gain trust. You're not there yet in the bonding and rapport stage. You're not trying to sell anything yet. Why? Why aren't you trying to sell anything in the bonding and rapport stage?
You haven't earned the right.
You haven't earned the right, or even more, why?
They don't trust you yet.
They don't trust you, but why else? You don't know what the problem is. You don't know why you're there. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know why they might have a need for your product or service. So the traditional salesperson, they take the opportunity, boom, they're in sell mode right away. Right away. And that's when the defensive walls rise. You have to use great communication skills, bonding and rapport to disarm the prospect, to start building trust. And there's ways to do that. You're not going to get that out of one 90-minute training session, right? There's ways to do that. Second thing, you have in communication, you have DISC, other assessments, you have matching and mirroring, you have active listening techniques, all these different things that you'll learn in the program. VAK, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, transactional analysis, all psychology. By the way, guys, that's what sales is, psychology, human relations. People will buy from people that they like, that they trust, and that are like them. And guess what? Think about your own personal habits. Most people will spend more money to buy from people that they like, that they trust, and that are like them. Especially in a commoditized world, or if you have a lot of competition, not everybody always chooses the lowest cost provider. Some might. It's good to know that. But people are going to choose to do business with people that they trust. Right? So that's number one. Somebody saying something? Number two, something called the upfront contract. A lot of you guys said earlier, setting expectations, expectation management, or not setting next steps. There's a technique we teach at Sandler's called the upfront contract, and the upfront contract is your crystal ball. It is a crystal ball. It helps you predict the future because you are setting expectations of what's going to happen, and you use it all throughout the sales process. It's not something you only use once. You use it over and over and over again. You use it to set a meeting. You use it to set another meeting. You use it when you show up for a meeting. And you utilize it when you want to predict the future. You use an upfront contract to give the prospect permission to tell you no if they don't think there's a match here. This way, when you're going into the meeting, let's say I'm setting up a meeting with Bob Fields. Right, Bob and I have never met. We're on the phone. He agrees to meet with me. As we're on the phone, I'm going to say, I'm going to set the time, the purpose of the meeting, where we're meeting and when, what he's going to do, his agenda, my agenda, and then set a clear future. So I might say, Bob, look forward to meeting you at your office Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Bob, typically my meetings take about 30 minutes. Bob, are you okay with that amount of time? Right, make believe Bob said yes. Right, great, Bob. Listen, I know you're going to have a lot of questions for me. You're going to want to learn a little bit more about our program. You're going to want to learn about how we help folks. You're going to want to learn probably about investment strategies. If it's something you decide to move forward with, I'm going to want to learn a little bit about you as well, Bob. I want to ask you questions about your team, what you've done in the past. Did it work? Why didn't it work? What your expectations are of the future. And by the way, Bob, if at any time during our conversation, you don't think we can help you or you don't think we're a good fit for you, it's perfectly okay to let us know that. Or I might say, Bob, at the 25-minute mark of our meeting, we can decide together what happens next. Right? And if for any reason you don't think we can help you, it's okay to tell us no. So now I'm letting Bob know up front, before we even meet, that at the end of the meeting, we're going to discuss next steps together. And I'm giving him permission to tell me no. And a lot of salespeople have problems with that. Why? Why do you think?
They're afraid they'll say no.
They're afraid I'll say it right. A no is the second best thing you can get on a sales call. Believe it or not. Why? Why is it good to get it early?
So
So
you
you
know
can
what
spend your time elsewhere.
You're not wait, boom. It's over. Move to the next. No stands for next opportunity. Right? Just find out what no means. Does no mean, hey, not good timing, reach back out in 6 months, or does no mean, hey, lose my number, never call me again? Right? But don't fear the no. Go for the no. Go for the no. Upfront contract helps you do that. The next step, oh, by the way, when you're building up bonding and rapport real quick, you know, who are you? Are you the guy in the upper right-hand corner here? You know, we've all met sales guys like that. Have I got a deal for you? Lower right-hand corner, the person comes to us really desperate. I need this deal. I got baby needs a new pair of shoes. I really need this deal. Right? Or the lower left, the doctor. You should consider yourself, think of yourself as a sales doctor. And when you go to a doctor, you are going to a doctor to solve pain, to solve a problem. And the doctor's going to walk in the room and do what?
Ask you questions.
They're going to ask you a bunch of questions, personal questions too. They might ask you personal questions. And we feel obligated to answer it. Why?
You want to
Because we
know?
want to get better.
We have pain.
We have pain and we want to fix the pain. The only difference between right now, all of you thinking why you don't sell like a doctor is head trash. Because some of you are thinking, I don't deserve, that's a personal question. I'm not going to ask them that. I'm not going to ask them how much they think the pain that they're currently having is costing them, how much money they've wasted with the current process that's not working. I don't deserve to know that. I don't deserve to ask that question. No, consider yourself a doctor. Because when you're doing that, you're differentiating yourself from all the other salespeople that are just in there trying to sell, sell, sell. Don't try and sell anything until you fully understand why you're there. Seek first to understand. Be intentional with it. Be intentional with it. Your job is to gather information. Go in there with the mindset of, I'm here to disqualify you. Really, ultimately, I need to figure out if you're worth my time, effort, and energy. Sell like a doctor. Solve pain. Before you can solve the pain, you need to fully understand the pain. Next 3 steps. We call this the qualifying step. This is where your money is made. I can't tell you how people come to me all the time, and I'm surprised it didn't come up. People say to me, Scott, I need help closing. I need help closing. I got a lot of deals in the pipeline, but boy, they're stalled. I need help closing. No. You got a lot of deals in the funnel that are stalled, or if you're doing a lot of unpaid consulting, you don't need help closing. You need help qualifying. This is where your money is made right here. First step is pain. We call it pain at Sandler. Call it what you want. Some people call it need, want. Pain is the reason for doing business. The reason for doing business. And there's multiple levels of pain. If somebody says to you, yeah, we're having bad customer service with our current provider, or we're having delivery issues, or we're paying too much money. Is that pain? What do you guys think? Is that pain? No. No, but what that is an indicator that there's a much greater problem. So this is where you put on your stethoscope, right? And this is where you start asking questions. And some of you, we're afraid to ask questions. We don't know how to use the right tonality, nurturing versus critical, or we don't pre-call plan to have a list of all the questions we need to ask, or we feel like it's getting too personal, right? But in any world of pain, you have the reasons for the pain. Then you have the personal reasons, how that affects the person responsible for solving it. And then you have to understand why the pain is there. And to do that, you have to learn how to ask questions. It sounds crazy, right? but you have to learn questioning strategies, like using things like the curiosity curve or reversing or negative reversing. All techniques that you learn how to be that doctor, how to ask questions, how to gather information. And while you're doing all this, you're setting yourself apart from your competition. Someone's going to say, wow, Rachel came in here. You know what? Rachel came in here. She asked us a lot of questions, really took the time to understand us, learn about us, find out what's going on. You know what she didn't do? She didn't try and sell us anything. But Doug came in and he was like, he just asked like 1 or 2 questions and then boom, this is what you need. Sell this, buy that. You know what? Rachel's someone that I really want to work with. Rachel came across more as like an advisor, not just another salesperson. Congratulations, Rachel. Good job. Right? Right? But ideally, that's what you want to do, and it takes time to develop that. It takes time to know how to do that. Right? But you got to understand the pain. The second thing, once you determine the pain and that you have a solution for it, that you can help them solve their pain, you have to understand the investment parameters. This is where we talk about budget. Most deals are lost when sticker shock is created. Because you get a little bit of pain, then you send them a quote, and then they get their quote and are like, holy cow, that's a hell of a lot more than I thought it would be. Or ABC company was 25% less, forget it, I'm not going to them. Then we get ghosted. You need to get brave and start having conversations about budget, about money. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to use things like third-party stories and bracketing and round numbers to say, well, you know, Rachel, this type of program, this what you're looking to accomplish here. I did a similar deal with somebody else recently. You're probably looking at around $10,000 for this program. Should we continue the conversation? And they might say, oh, wow, $10,000, that's a heck of a lot more than I thought it would be. And then you just start asking more questions. Does that mean it's done? Right? We shouldn't talk about it anymore. Right? But getting brave to really start talking about it. Instead of just sending a quote, they get it, 10 grand, forget it, Rachel's done. Right? But budget, again, isn't only about money. Someone said this earlier. It's about time. Are they willing to implement your software, right? Mark might sell a website to somebody or do marketing, but does somebody want to take the time to reinvent everything and do everything and kick out who's currently there, whatever it might be? So budget investment is all about not only just money, but time, effort, and energy to change. We have to learn that. And then decision-making process. Who's involved? What's the timeline? Why is it made that way? Right? Being that investigative reporter in the decision-making process to really ask questions. And again, how to ask them with the right tonality. So what is a good qualified opportunity? A really good qualified opportunity is one where you can clearly articulate the pain that you have a solution for. You've already had some preliminary budget conversations, so there's going to be no sticker shock. They know what to expect. You already know everything that's involved with the investment to implement your solution, and if they're willing to do it. And you're familiar with their decision-making process, and you're willing to partake in their decision-making process, and you know their timelines, and you know who's involved, and you know when they want to implement it by. So if you can clearly articulate pain, budget, and decision, that is a wonderfully qualified opportunity that deserves your time, effort, and energy. And it goes in that sales funnel. If you can't clearly qualify it, probably isn't funnel ready yet. Doesn't belong in the funnel. Make sense? And the last step before we just do it for key takeaways from today, the last step is all about what we call closing the sale. The close happens. This is where you present the solution. You're presenting the solution in step 6, after you know the pain, after you know the budget, after you know the decision. This is when you're sharing what you can, how you can help them. Bonus points. Who remembers where did we present in the traditional selling model when we were talking about the buyer-seller dance earlier? Where did we present earlier?
First.
Second. Qualify for need, qualify for interest, boom, present. in this Sandler methodology, you're not presenting until the end. First, you're taking the time, effort, energy to really understand why you're there, what they need, why they need it, what they've done in the past. Did it work? Why didn't it work? How are you going to be different? Can they afford your solution? Are they willing to implement it? Then you're going to solve their problem. Right? You're presenting in step 6 versus step 2. And that's how you avoid getting ghosted. There's 1 minute left. So here's what I'd like you to do with 1 minute. I'm going to stay on for anybody that has questions. I'm going to stay on. But with the 1 minute left, I'd love for you to type in the chat before you log off a key takeaway from today. And I'm going to record it in the chat. But if you can please put in the chat a key takeaway. And I'll ask a couple of you while you're typing in key, to share with us. Julia, key takeaway from you today?
That when the prospect wants something from you is the best time to ask questions.
Ask. Absolutely. And there's techniques to use and ways to ask, because asking certain questions is going to make you uncomfortable. Thank you for that. Mason, key takeaway from you.
Sell like a doctor. I like that.
Like a doctor. Absolutely. Thank you. Roberta, key takeaway from you? Caught you off guard there. You're like, he's not going to. You're on mute, Roberta. We'll come back to
Sorry,
Roberta.
no, sorry about that. It was already taken. I liked the sell like a doctor.
Got it. So give me another one. Put you on the spot. Give me another one.
Well, I always use the BANT, so that's a big acronym that I've always followed. So just a reminder how important that is.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what BANT is, it's budget, authority, need, and timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more, I will ask Sam, key takeaway.
The true value of a salesperson is more determined by the amount of information you gather rather than dispensing.
Awesome. Good job, guys. Like I said, I will stay on for those that have any other questions. Otherwise, I know it's 4:31. I kept you a minute longer. Thanks for a good session, and we'll see you next week when Kevin is leading the conversation on behavior, attitude, and technique.
Thank you. Oh, it's my lucky day.
Take care,
Thanks,
folks.
Scott.
Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, Scott. I'll call you this week.
Thank you.